Hello there, everybody. It is me, Leo, otherwise known as Freezer Bunny, and welcome back to another Sims 4 speed build. So today we are once again building another one of these suburban / realistic homes, and this time we are speed building a house called the Sporty family home. So this house has a total of 3 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms, and when I was building this, I had in mind a family that's really into athletics and sports. I've never really done a sports themed house before. I might have done a couple of gym venues, but not necessarily a house for a family that's really into sports. So I really wanted to do a sports themed build. So this build has a built-in basketball court with 2 hoops and also a relatively good sized swimming pool and a family gym, and let's see what else, a hot tub, and also like a wellness room on the 2nd floor as well, which can also be turned into an extra 4th bedroom if you guys need the space. So I actually had a lot of fun doing this build. I was going for a more, I guess, suburban / traditional contemporary with a little bit of a Latin American Spanish colonial vibe to it as well, which I think is a style that really works well with Oasis Springs. I really wanted it to be a bit more of the middle class style, and I thought that this neighborhood worked really well for that look that I was going for. You guys will see that the roofing for this was really elaborate. I actually really took a lot of time to make the roof look really nice and realistic. So I actually had to flip the lot to the other side because the other side just had better lighting, and there's a lot of like stereotypical Spanish influence design in this house. Obviously the terracotta tile roofs and also the brightly colored stucco that I'm gonna paint the outside as well. One thing that you guys will notice in this build that I don't think I do that much is that the ground level is actually a higher floor height than the 2nd floor, and I don't do that often. For the wallpaper, I chose this stucco that I don't think I've ever used before, but I really liked it because it had this variation to it. There's kind of like 2 kinds of the stucco. It has a version of just a plain one, and then it has another version where it had like the detail of the darker colored stucco on the lower third, which I actually really liked. It made the house look a lot more whole, if that makes sense. Like, it made the house look like it's one solid structure. I also really like the color that it comes with. Unfortunately, the variation that has the darker color on the lower third only comes in 2 colors, which was really disappointing. It only comes in like a blue and this kind of like yellowish brown color, which, yeah, I wish we had more. But the other colors of wallpaper that I chose this kind of like white paneling to add a little bit more detail, especially on the 2nd level. And also I chose some really nice stone textures to also add a little bit more detail and variation with the wallpaper for the outside as well. I also put a lot of ivy on the outside, and actually looking back at it, once I'm done putting the ivy, I think the house turned out looking a lot more Italian than it is more Spanish colonial. So I don't know, either way, I really liked how it looked, and I think the ivy really has a nice effect on the outside. It gives it a little bit more life and vibrancy to look at on the outside. So at this point, I put the house back to where it's supposed to be facing, and yeah, we are just pretty much experimenting with how you know, how this house is going to be situated as, because I definitely wanted the garage to connect to the road. So I had to move it a little bit more to the right side so that I could put a pathway from the garage to connect to the road. And speaking of pathways, the pathways were actually quite elaborate for this one. I use a lot of floor tiles for the pathways, and I also used a lot of brick colored floor tiles for the pathways as well, because I felt like the red bricks really complemented with the style of the house. And I think this is where we are beginning to actually set up where the basketball court is going to be. So yeah, once again, I'm just experimenting with where I want to place it. You guys probably saw at the very start of this video that I actually put the basketball court first because I wanted to make sure that I had enough space for it. But yeah, that is going to be the final location for the basketball court. And I really wanted to have a 2-hoop basketball court. I don't really know how you call it. I'm pretty sure there's like a technical term for like a basketball court with 2 hoops, but I don't know what it is. So yeah, forgive me for that. I'm not necessarily the most sporty person in the world. I don't even watch sports, unfortunately, even though basketball is so big in my country. It's like the biggest sport in the Philippines. I don't really follow sports that much, even though growing up, I biked a lot. I think that if I had a sport, that was definitely biking. And I think when I was in college, I was really into volleyball for like a time, but I really was terrible at it. I had no strength. So yeah. And right now it looks like we are finally starting work on the interior. And I gotta say that the way I did the interior for this build is actually very unique compared to a lot of other builds that I've done before, especially a lot of my other traditional builds, because eventually the interior actually becomes a lot more open plan. At first I started with something that is a little bit more traditional, something that's kind of more divided. You know, you guys know how traditional layouts for houses would usually have divisions for each room. So each room would be its own separate room. Like a dining room would be separate from the kitchen, and the living room would be separate from like the dining room. You guys get what I mean. Eventually though, the kitchen, dining, and living room becomes one entire room, and I actually really liked how that came out. So the first room that we're actually going to be working on is the kitchen and dining area, and I was so pleased with how it turned out in the end. As soon as I finished it, I actually posted on Twitter that I was so happy because it came out so realistic. So yeah. I actually started with the furniture, weirdly enough, for this room. I didn't put the wallpapers until the very end. I don't know why actually, but I knew that I wanted to use that beautiful floor texture. I don't know what expansion pack that came with, but that's so beautiful. I just love how shiny it is. And from the get-go, I kind of had a basic idea on what the layout for the kitchen and dining area was going to be, because it was such a huge space that I wanted to have this center island in the middle of everything so that it kind of breaks up the space into two. The kitchen and the dining, you know, you don't need walls to delineate the different spaces. You can use many different things, like, you know, in this case, I used these counter island. So yeah, I also put a fridge inside one of those overhead cabinets. Unfortunately, the fridge doesn't work, so I will actually replace that later on off camera. I actually play tested this and everything worked really fine except for that fridge. But I really liked how the kitchen came out in the end, actually. I love the layout. I love how it's not like any other kitchen that I've built before. It's a little bit more modern in terms of its execution and its design, because usually, I guess in modern architecture, it will be that's when you're gonna see things be a little bit more random. I also like this wallpaper that I used as a backsplash. When Parenthood came out, I immediately knew that wallpaper would be a perfect backsplash for the kitchen, and I didn't expect that using a black wallpaper would actually look so good, but it did. So, yeah, I really liked how it turned out in the end. And this is when we are pretty much going to be working on the dining area. I will actually take out that door right there because I don't think it gave us that much space for the dining table, because right next to the dining table is also going to be kind of like another dining area, because I'm going to be putting bar stools on the bar counter thing. So it's going to be a lot, which kind of makes sense because I wanted the family that lives here to really be into entertaining. And like I mentioned earlier, they're really into sports. So most of the time they are actually outdoors. They're outside, playing basketball or, practicing training and stuff like that. So I felt like logically the most used space in the entire house for the whole family would probably be the kitchen/dining room area. The living room, I don't think so much, because I think the living room's gonna be more for entertainment as opposed to like being used every day. I did go for a mixture of traditional and contemporary furniture, which I actually think is a really good mix, because I think it doesn't, because if I tend to be a purist. My friend calls me a purist. Every time I design something, I stick to everything authentic about the design. But in this case, I really like the combination of traditional and contemporary because I feel like the combination just looked really good. And then right here in this bay window area, I actually put a bar. I actually have to test that bar, but I've seen a lot of people actually just put the bar facing the wall. And I'm gonna assume that it works because I've never done it before, but I'm just gonna say that it works because I've seen so many people do that. So yeah. Right now we're working on the living room, and the living room initially started with a different layout from the final layout. I wanted it to be less centralized, because usually the way I would design things, I would put the fireplace in the center. And for my first attempt at the layout, I wanted the fireplace to be on the far side on the wall attached to the kitchen, but it didn't work out, and you guys will see me actually change the layout later on. So this is pretty much the point where I am beginning to change the layout, and first thing that I do is actually move the fireplace to the center, which is the one thing that I was trying to avoid at first. Also, I realized at this point that the rug that I chose didn't have a symmetrical pattern. Oh my gosh. And that was like such a big revelation to me. Like, I tried to align the lounge chairs to the pattern, and I noticed that rug, if you guys look at it closely, it doesn't have a symmetrical pattern. And I know that that's like a minor detail, but wow, I was like, is EA really that careless to give us a rug that doesn't have a symmetrical pattern? I mean, who cares about symmetry? But it just really bothered me that rug wasn't symmetrical at all. I also wanted to add a bunch of fun stuff to this room as well, because we just had so much space. So I threw in a karaoke machine and also a stereo, as well as a gaming table, I believe. I will put that in a little bit. The karaoke machine was so tricky to actually put because it took up so much space, and I don't know. I don't think I've seen that many karaoke areas in houses before. That's why it's probably really tricky for me to, do the karaoke machine and whatever. But I just wasn't feeling how it was earlier. So I just flipped some of the furniture and stuff, and I actually really liked how it came out. There is a functioning gaming table over there right next to the fireplace, and also a functioning karaoke machine as well over here right next to the stereo. And I really think that it makes sense for the karaoke machine to be next to the stereo because I think that those two should go together, even though you don't need to have the stereo in order for the karaoke machine to function. So pretty much for this main entrance area, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I tried to put in, a grand piano at first, which didn't work because I didn't feel like it made sense to have a grand piano in this sporty themed house. So I actually tore down two of the walls that separated the kitchen and dining room areas from the living room areas, and it actually came out really, really nice. I'm really happy that I tore down those walls in favor of this more open space. And I also put this aquarium actually in this like little hallway area because I felt like there needed to be some sort of like point of interest over there. And I think the aquarium looked really good. And made me realize that I really don't use the aquariums that often. So I was really happy that I was able to use the aquariums in this build. And right now we are working on kind of like the gym area actually. And this gym has, I think, all the gym equipment except for the rock climbing thing. I don't even know like what house would have that, but yeah, it has 2 treadmills. It has one punching bag and one, oh my gosh, I don't know what that machine is called. Weightlifting machine? I'm gonna say weightlifting machine. I used a lot of fitness stuff in this build. I really like the look of the fitness stuff. I think that fitness stuff and spa day have a very similar aesthetic. I like how they're mixing these really modern materials with these like iron and like steel with some traditional materials like wood and marble and things, and it looks really good actually. I really, really liked how it looks. Overall, I actually really liked how the gym came out. It actually surprisingly came out a lot more nicer than I was expecting it. Alright, so we are finally furnishing the second floor, and the first thing that really bothered me is that some of the roof pieces were actually entering the second floor, and there's just nothing you can do about it. It's the way the Sims roof system works, but the solution that I figured out was to lower the pitch of the roof itself. I think I lowered it to the lowest possible roof pitch angle thing, whatever, and it worked. It got rid of that pieces of the roof that entered the room. So we are finally furnishing the master bedroom, and I know this is so cliche, but I went for a red color scheme for the master bedroom. It's basically red with a lot of like really richly colored woods. And basically I built this house for a small family of 3 Sims, and they are all really into sports, athletics, or fitness and wellness. So I imagine the father to be a coach. He is a sportsman, and towards the end of his career, he decided to settle down and retire, and now he works as a coach. The mother I imagine to be really into wellness and health, and I imagine her to work as the nutritionist. And then they have a child, they have a single child that is really into sports as well. I imagine the child to be kind of like a varsity or like in like a really successful sports team in their school, whether it's in high school or college. I imagine more of high school because I did design this for a teen. For the master bedroom, it looks really cramped, but I think that's because I used a lot of really large furniture, and I also really wanted to have a fireplace in the master bedroom as well because that just felt really glamorous. Furnishing the master bathroom actually is really interesting because it has kind of like a black and white color scheme, and I'd like to think that out of all the rooms in the house, the master bathroom is the one that is continuously being renovated because I don't know, the owners are just really picky about their bathroom. But I think that there's a level of glamour in the master bathroom that you can't find in the rest of the house. It's significantly more glamorous compared to all the other rooms. And I think it's because of like the furniture that I chose. It's the color scheme. I think those black columns make it look really glamorous. And this room right here is actually supposed to be the guest bedroom. I didn't put a lot of effort, to be completely honest with you guys, but I still put a lot of time furnishing this room. I don't even know why, but I just went for a more realistic and neutral color scheme for this one. It's supposed to be a guest bedroom, so I didn't want to do it over the top with a lot of clutter and a lot of personality because, you know, I wanted it to be more functional for whoever's gonna stay in here, so it's pretty versatile. I don't know, maybe for like grandparents who might be staying over the holidays or some guests or whatever, I think those kinds of people would be perfect in this room. And the last room that we're actually going to be furnishing is the room for our athlete. I really wanted to use this wallpaper that came with Parenthood toddler stuff. It's one of those, I think. But it has these really cute like you know, like sports details with like the soccer and the basketball details and stuff, but it just didn't work out. So I just used this blue and navy blue color scheme for the walls, and I really like the camo pattern on that bed. Actually, it came out really nice. And I don't know, I also wanted to have some quirkiness and some sense of humor into this room, so I put this rug that came with spooky stuff. What's spooky stuff? Yeah, and I'm not even sure if it's spooky stuff, but yeah, one thing that's really special about this room is actually that initially I wanted to put a weightlifting machine, but I felt like that defeated the purpose of having a gym downstairs. So instead of putting like a weightlifting machine, I just put like this computer gaming rig over here. I mean, it's not really a gaming rig, it's more of like a gaming station, because, you know, our kid, he or she can have friends over and they can have, you know, they can play video games. They can play PS4 or Xbox or whatever. They could play The Sims 4 on the console. How exciting is that? Coming this November. EA should really pay me for that plug. Anyway, I'm actually really curious. I actually started my obsession with The Sims by playing The Sims on console. And the very first Sims game I played on the console isn't even an official Sims game. It was a game called Sims Theme Park. And it was released in the late 90s for the PlayStation 1. And that was my very first Sims game. And it just gives me so much nostalgia. And then this room right here is actually a really fun room. It is supposed to be the private room for the mom. It could also be an extra bedroom if you guys really needed to have another bedroom. And what I really liked about this room is that it's so different from the rest of the house because it has a more chinoiserie-esque feel. And if you guys don't know what chinoiserie is, it's more of like an oriental design. I think it's because of that round window that I chose. And subconsciously, I just ended up using kind of like oriental details, like that, you know, that screen over there. And I think there's also going to be a Japanese scroll thing. And I loved when I put this rattan love seat. It just completed the whole look. Even with that desk, it has like that kind of oriental pattern on the sides of it, which I really liked. And also the rug is very Eastern looking as well. And I used some fairy lights, actually. I put the fairy lights underneath that circular window and it just looked really cool. I really liked how this room came out in the end, and I really like it. It looked really quirky and it looked really awesome, and I'm really happy with how it came out. I think at this point, pretty much most of the interior is done. So working on the landscaping, I had a really hard time figuring out what to do with the backyard, because I knew that I wanted to have a swimming pool, but the backyard just felt a little bit tricky to design because it was just one long, narrow strip of lot. And, you know, it was really awkward to design at first, but I'm really happy with how it came out in the end. So basically for the swimming pool area, I actually used some wooden planks because I just really liked the idea of using these wooden planks for the swimming pool area. It made it feel very resort-esque, which I really liked. And there's also some planter beds over here as well, which makes it look really lush. I actually also add an extra fence over here because I didn't like how the fence had no variation to it. I wanted to have these hedges. I just felt like the hedges looked a lot better and a lot nicer to look at compared to this one solid concrete stone fence. So yeah, I chose to add some hedges in between the concrete stone fence just to give it a little bit more variation, and I think it came out looking really nice in the end. And over here, I really wanted to incorporate an archway. I really like using that archway, that hedge archway actually, because it matched perfectly with the hedge fences, and I really wanted to do that. And in order to do that, I had to change the pathways. So yeah, I changed the pathways a little bit, and the foundation level underneath the fences I changed them into more of like a stone texture, and that was just me visualizing like how the landscaping patterns are gonna be. I don't show off the entire landscaping in this video because it gets repetitive at some point, but yeah, this is just me, you know, painting the landscaping pretty much how I usually do it. And then just adding more planter beds over here, and I think we're about to choose the trees actually that I'm going to be using. So I used a lot of aspen trees actually. I really like looking at the aspen trees. There's something about them that just looks really awesome. I really liked it. I also like how the aspen trees have a white bark. So yeah, I really appreciated that tree. And because the leaves on the trees are actually pretty high up, they're pretty easy to use because they don't bump into like, you know, they don't clip into like all the other stuff that's going on in the lot. They don't cover up that much, so I really liked using the aspen trees. And for a little bit more detail, I also used these cypress trees actually, which is a type of tree that you usually have in warmer climates, and I felt like they were perfect here in Oasis Springs. I guess for the landscaping, the best thing I could describe it as would probably be lush, arid landscaping, if that makes any sense. So I used a lot of plants that you would usually expect to see in warmer climates, like a lot of cacti, and also some lavender as well. I don't really see cacti and lavender come together, but I think that lavender does live and survive in some warmer Mediterranean climates, right? So you guys can see me do a little bit of landscaping here. It's going to give you a little bit of an idea on how the rest of the landscaping is going to look. For the furniture, I just chose some contemporary style furniture. I think I'm actually going to put the hot tub. Yeah, there we go. We're going to put the hot tub over here. I know it's a really weird place for a hot tub, but it's better than not having anything in this area. So I just chose to put a hot tub instead. And right here, I actually put a barbecue area. And it's a little bit more of a luxurious barbecue area. Like I said earlier in the video, I imagine the family who lives here to be a little bit more into throwing social events. So yeah, for this barbecue area, we have kind of like a really nice large space for it using the perfect patio stuff. There we go. I'm really confident that came with perfect patio stuff as well. And then also using some perfect patio chairs that match the barbecue area over here. And I really like that round table. And I think that we are going to get a round table that sits 6 Sims with the Cats and Dogs expansion. So that's one thing that I'm looking forward to. And of course, as per usual, the way I do things, I also put these lounge chairs, which aren't actually lounge chairs. They're just ottomans attached to the ends of these living room chairs, but they look like lounge chairs to me. I wonder when those are gonna make a comeback actually, so yeah. But that is pretty much it for, I think, pretty much everything in this build. But to those of you guys who actually watched the entire video, I have a special request for you guys. So I actually did my commentary a little bit differently this time. Literally, I mess up as I'm about to end the commentary, but I'm going to be editing a lot of the commentary to make it a little bit more time effective. So I'm going to be editing out a lot of the oohs and ums and the dead air as well. So you guys let me know how it is, if it's more entertaining this way. And by the way, I also added this extra little detail of the fountain area in front, and there's a little bit of there's a little fountain area and also like a small fish spitting water. I don't even know what to call it. It's like a fish jet fountain thing. And I put it there just to, you know, add a little bit more interesting things happening in front. And I really liked how it turned out. So you guys, I really need your feedback with the commentary and with the new way that I'm doing things. So hopefully everything is still entertaining for you guys. And hopefully you guys enjoy the video. So if you guys had fun watching this video, once again, please don't forget to hit that like, favorite, and subscribe button because it really helps out the channel a lot. You all have an awesome day. Thank you guys so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of the video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.